Hello again. Long time no see. So, for people who are working on anything, which is hopefully everyone ever, a word of advice: do it when it's fresh. What do I mean by that? So, whenever you actually have inspiration or motivation, when they call it so to speak, work on that thing right away. I will say that a lot of people wait around for motivation and they think that it's something which is supposed to come around whenever, right? These people who are super passionate about something, these people who work on something every single day, these people are very motivated. And that's how you describe them. It's a very easy bucket to put on someone. But humans don't operate that way. In order to stay awake, you need a little bit of cortisol. In order to stay focused on something, you need dopamine. So, whenever you're learning something, you tell people, okay, get a feedback loop. Start thinking about how you operate within that thing as quickly as possible. How do you get feedback on if you're going right or wrong? And how do you tell yourself if you're doing the right thing as quickly as possible? Get as many iterations as you can because your brain works on repetition. And the more repetitions you get, the better your brain functions for that particular task. That's the idea. So, when it comes to in terms of motivation, you want to get establish this feedback loop which keeps giving you more dopamine. And maybe you're fantasizing about something that you're going to be doing, or maybe you just spur of the moment have some spike, your neurons fire, and you're ready to work on something. And that fantasy and talking to people about it maybe gives you that inspiration, that motivation that you need, that dopamine threshold where you feel like you can work on it. If you are available, start working on that thing right away. Just get a draft to get the ball rolling because it is incredibly important to start working on something. And it's a lot easier if you already feel good about it, if the ideas are fresh in your head, than if you're like, okay, I'll work on this later. I'm like, oh, this is such a great idea. Like, I need to write this down, or I need to open a notepad or something. Like, just start working on it, or just write it down. Keep that idea in mind. You would be surprised how many people think about something and then immediately forget it. It is actually shocking. Like, you ever like me on your phone and then you go upstairs and then you get up the stairs and you forgot why you went up the stairs? But as a really easy example of forgetting something, or you were studying cramming right before the test and the first question is on the thing that you just studied and you immediately forgot one part, or it's only like 4 steps. Like, it's very easy to forget things. It's also very easy to just not work on things when there's something more desirable like your phone, which gives you the dopamine touch you need to keep doing that thing, and it keeps resetting and feeling like you're working on a new task every single time you scroll another reel. So you need to get the ball rolling in the direction in which you actually want. Alignment, goal alignment, something that I've talked so many other times, but the meaning behind working on something when you quote unquote feel motivated or inspired, or when you have ideas for something, when it's fresh, when you have direction, is beyond just the people who lack direction or like finding your true passions. It's also motivation doesn't commonly come before you start the task. I think that's something that's very rare. It's very unique for people to always be like, I have some startup or I have some idea that I want to execute, to always have this premonition of something in which they want to accomplish it, how they want to accomplish it. That's very rare. Most people go out into the world and they experience things and they see how they feel about those things. And then they keep doing that until they find something that they really enjoy, and then they keep doing that thing, and that's their feedback loop, and they keep getting dopamine while doing that. Notice the motivation was just to experience new things, to go out into the world and try and find something that you enjoy. And that's inspiration, that's aspiration, right? That's just some idea that you have, but you don't really get the ball rolling. You don't really start working on something until you've already started working on it. So, in this sense, in the very practical sense of this idea of motivation versus how our actual bodies function, motivation comes after starting the task. This is why like things like the 2 minute rule are so useful, where you just put on your shoes, or you like eat at the right time to start thinking about the run. Or when people who organize themselves with a calendar tend to be able to get a lot more things done because they take the quote unquote motivation or the inspiration part out of play, in which it's just discipline, in which you're aligned with your calendar. You say, I put this thing on the calendar, I'm going to follow through with that thing on the calendar. And as you continue to come through for yourself, you start to build up quote unquote motivation to stay on track. It's a lot easier to stay on track once you've already done it because you trust yourself. You've demonstrated to your brain multiple times that you know what's best for it and that its dopamine, its support follows you and your intentions and your goals. And that's very far down the line. That's a very long-winded way to say that you need to build rapport with yourself. And this quote-unquote motivation, this discipline stuff, it gets a lot easier. The hardest part is to get the ball rolling, right? Like the hardest part of starting your car is starting the car. The hardest part after you hit the red light is to start moving. Like these momentum-based ideas function for your brain as well because it is easier to travel on the pathway which has already been carved, right? Like I don't know if this is a niche concept, but if you've ever heard of a desire path, if you've ever gone like hiking where you go on a trail and you see that like there's a clear paved main path that exists, and there's also a path of like dirt on the side that shows like a shortcut. Like maybe there was a turn and a bend and then the people just decided to go straight and like cut straight across the field. And eventually, over time, after trampling a lot of plants, it created a dirt path, which is called a desire path, or the path that people actually want to walk, relative to the main provided path. And think of that as a representation of your brain. The first person who walked on that desire path didn't want to had to forage a little bit, right? They had to maybe walk through grass, maybe they had to walk through a bush, like you don't know. But they had a harder time navigating that than you did. But over time, this grass starts to die. The vegetation in the way starts to die. It gets trampled by tons more people that continue to follow this path because it's more efficient, common idea. Or maybe there's just one person trampling it. You don't know. The bottom line is the more repetitions that happen on this path, the easier it is to follow the path, right? Because people clear the path for you. This goes the same for knowledge in general. I think it is a blessing that we have education. And some may argue that the world was not meant to be understood, but since we have models to understand the world that were made by humans, they were made to be understood by other humans, or at least have been understood by another human who has most likely the same biological capacities as you, the same tools at their disposal, which means that you can replicate their work. And it's a lot easier to replicate someone's work than to make new work. I'm sure a lot of people can attest that it's easier to just be coached than to be the coach. Because even though the athlete, the trainee, the mentee has to put in the work, so to speak, the coach has to come up with the work. And it's a lot harder for a lot of people to be creative than to just follow instructions. This is another thing along the veins of school teaches you to follow instructions. How good are you at following instructions? And it's not to say that bending the rules or like being your own person is bad per se, but it is to say that in order to function within a society, you have the education for that. And maybe society was made for reasons. And then your job as somebody with critical thinking skills is to figure out how you can criticize society within the bounds of the society. So how can you cause change and reform without fundamentally destroying the platform that allows you to create that change or reform? And the reason I bring this up in a video about motivation is you need to give people reasons to believe in your cause, to invest in what you have to say. And you need to give them the capacity, to the failsafe, to say that it is more likely that if you invest in this cause that you will get the positive change that you are looking for than it is unlikely that this power structure is no longer going to exist and the benefits that we fought for are no longer going to exist. Kind of a high level concept, but the bottom line is if you believe in something, you need to get the ball rolling and other people will follow. It's a lot easier, bad analogy, but if you are already running, it's a lot easier to speed up than it is from a standstill, so to speak. Or it's a lot easier to believe in something once you can already see it. And all of these things are ways to say that I'm like, if you believe in something, you have an idea to do something, if there's something in which you have the capacity to do, even if you're like tired or whatever, not here to motivate you to get out of bed. Do that thing. Just do it. Well, Like, make a prototype, start working on it, something. Like, figure out if this idea is feasible, if it's something within your capacity, if it's something that you think is worthwhile, but just start iterating, start prototyping. It's the shoot for the stars, and so shoot for the moon and you'll land among the stars, miss and you'll land among the stars. It's within your best interest to work, to start working on something. And this motivation that people speak of, it follows actually working on something. I don't want to say something so radical as in I don't believe in motivation. As a concept, it is very true that some people just have an idea for something and find it really easy to follow up on that idea. But at least in terms of how you and as a human and your physiology functions, I find it hard to believe that you just sit around and one day you suddenly have the discipline to do all these things. Like the stories like David Goggins, they're they're the outlier. They're not the rule. A lot of people like sit in their own, I don't want to say pity, but their own situation, and they might feel very motivated for rest. They might feel very inclined to like sleep. And that's okay. You also are stacking the deck in your favor. Oh my god. Remembered what I wanted to talk about. Energy. Every time you fail the habit, you are telling your body, your brain, that I want to continue failing this habit. And disconnect the you that wants from the you that you think of when you're like, okay, what do I want to do with my life, versus the you, the body that functions. But every day you spend repeating the habit that you don't want is a greater energy debt that you have to make up for and that you have to undo before you can start doing the thing that you want. So this is vague rule out there where it's like, don't fail the day twice. Don't lose 2 games in a row. And it just means don't reinforce your bad habit twice, or don't do the bad habit twice. Don't let it build. Don't get a streak. Don't do it 2 days in a row. And the other thing, the additive to the 2-minute rule, is the show up for 2 days. You tried it once, you try it again, see how you feel, and if you continue to feel that way, then maybe you have a new habit that you want to do. And otherwise, you can drop it. And that's a reason that you make with yourself to just get the ball rolling, right? It's a pact that you make. You agree with yourself to do this thing. So I rambled a little bit. I've been doing this thing where I feel like I need to fill out the video so it comes to a nice conclusion, but I can just edit how long the video is after. But I do this little filibuster action while I'm trying to remember the talking point that I actually had. And I one take Jake that. So that's it. Thank you. Enjoy.